All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Whoa, we still got people coming in. All right. Happy Friday. Welcome. I'm so excited. This is our very first Architect Showcase. I think hopefully this will be the first of many. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get started, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, AG Grid, for helping us have these free events for everybody. Super fun. Okay, so this is a first Architect Showcase that we've planned. If this goes well, if you guys like this, then we can make this a once a month thing, which I think would be a lot of fun. Okay, I just want to set the stage real quick. I was doing a lot of enterprise consulting for years, and I saw a lot of people making the same mistakes and a lot of code that wasn't beautiful. And so I left consulting and went to teaching, and now I'm running this group of Angular architects, aspiring architects, and aspiring GDEs. And I just want to say before we even get started that I am so proud of, I just love these guys. I love all the people in this group. Okay, so we're working on basically architecture, clean, fast code. We're also working on things like leadership and confidence, motivation, setting goals. Some of us have the goal of becoming an Angular GDE, which is why we have Connie in the keynote spot, because she has smashed this goal and is an inspiration for everyone else in the group. So she's going to be kicking us off. But first, I want to give us a start with Tim. We're going to squeeze Tim in because Tim's got a pretty busy schedule lately. But I want to give him a few minutes because Tim went through architect training a while back, and I just wanted to give Tim a few minutes. Tim, how are you doing?
Great.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. All right, so I'll be pretty brief, but I kind of wanted to show some of the benefits of taking the Angular Architect training and having the entire team go through it. So I'm just going to show a spreadsheet to kind of give you see if I can get it working here. To show you the benefit of putting the team through the training and kind of how when we decided to go and put everything in a monorepo, it gave us a chance to refactor and take advantage of a lot of lessons that we learned and really get our code base easier to maintain. Okay, wait, make sure the screen comes up well. Can everybody see the spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, and now this is updated. I have the lines of code updated as of November. The idea here was to be able to have an idea of what it takes to support all of our applications, how much code we have in there that we've got to maintain and deal with. So one of the things I should add on here, if I was going to publicly present this again, would be the date that we actually built the application. So you can see, like, one of our applications here is 467,000 lines of code. It was built almost 9 years ago by a different team, and we've just been maintaining it since then. So it's one of the few products we haven't rebuilt. But just to kind of give you an example of what we were doing in some of our more recent projects, let's see. So we have this My UPS web and mobile program. Entire program, less than 5,000 lines of code for a mobile version and less than 4,000, just a little over 3,000 for the web version. So if you look at our older stuff, we're in the 100,000s. Now our newer products are under 10K. So one of the ones I'm excited about that I just got the numbers right before this call. We had a product that we built about 7 years ago called Nifty. And then we did a process to get it in our monorepo and make sure that we're taking advantage of shared code using a lot of the principles through the class. We got it from 109,000 to 8,500. I mean, it was a massive change.
And it does all the same things?
Does all the same things, exact same feature set. So now there is a little trick behind the scene on it. So there is this thing that's called the UPS One framework, and that's where you can see a lot of this shared code lives. But now, because all of the apps can take advantage of the same thing, we don't have to have that same code for how's your nav bar work on each app, how's a login work, how do the various help menu options and help desk tickets, the things that you use across all the apps are in one spot. And then a lot of the components, like a user dropdown or a company dropdown, those are in one spot in the UPS One framework, and we can use it across all of our applications. So that was the most recent one. And then we had another one, product called Employee Portal. It was over 250,000 lines. We rewrote that. It's at 63,000 in a rewrite, but this is also adding over double the amount of features too. So we didn't just rewrite it, we rebuilt a lot on top of it too. So it's still a massive, massive decrease of lines of code. So the idea is that um, we've got a big team and we want to keep, or a relatively decent sized team, and we want to be able to continue doing new things. And the weight of every project can continue and add, can kind of crush a team if it's not a maintainable way. So that's one of the key things too. By getting the everything in a monorepo, by sharing components across projects, and just taking the lessons of architect training, could really make your code base much more maintainable. So at one point we were over 2.5 million. And then once I update the numbers, I'll be able to take off another, once we can retire the other product, there's another 110,000 lines I can take down. And the goal that I'm really trying to shoot for is to get all of our products under 1.2 million lines of code from almost at 3 million, just to make things to where if we get a new project, okay, a new project might only be 10,000 lines of code, not 100,000. So we'll be able to grow and maintain without having to scale the team in a unmaintainable way. So that's the main thing I wanted to get across. If you get a chance to do architect training, I highly recommend it, and bring as much of your team in it as possible. You get everybody together on the same page, you can really do some amazing things. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate you squeezing us into your busy schedule. I know you're not going to be here later for, well, you're always welcome to come back if you get a chance later for the Q&A. But I do have a question for you. If you would say, like, if there's one thing that you learned in architect training that really helped you to get the lines of code down, is there anything that you can share with us, like a pro tip that you can pass along of what people can do to
Yeah.
write less code?
So in the architect training, you talk a little bit about the pros and cons of monorepos. And so trying to take the right approach with the monorepo and figuring out what should be shared across all apps, things like that. I think we were in the middle of transitioning to a monorepo at the time we were taking architect training. There were several things that we were doing in the middle of architect training that we were able to rethink or kind of take advantage of as we were continuing to do that. But I think there's so many things that get used across all apps that don't get thought about until much later. Trying to figure out those things and separating them out, having shared libraries across all your apps, it is a huge benefit. I could probably get to more technical things if I was a little more prepared, but I think that's probably the simplest one across all of them. That if you have 2, 3, 4 applications, it's worth considering putting them in one repo to share a lot of that common things, especially if you're doing stuff for the same company. You're probably going to want the same styling, the same look and feel, and all of those type of things, and want it to where you're not recreating that each app, or even worse, and this is what happened before when we had single repositories. Okay, we're going to start a new project. Let's copy that repo and go from there. And then later on, oh, we're going to change how our help menu works or our nav menus work. Well, now we have to remember to go back and change the others. And then the other thing that we really get the benefit of, the one thing I didn't mention earlier, all of our apps are on Angular 16 that are in the monorepo. That was not the case with all the ones that were separate. The one that I was showing, the first one where we went from 109,000 to 8,500, that project was Angular 4.
Wow.
So it's one of those that, because there's so many different projects and repos, it was so hard to continually keep things up to date, because you'd have to go back, find all the dependencies that are no longer working, replace them with something else, and update each thing, because we might only be fixing minor things on a project for multiple years. So is it worth going in and doing all the work to update to the next version of Angular? Probably not. But if you have a repo where everything lives, it's a much simpler process. So
Love it. This is very good advice. Thank you so much. I want to keep moving because we have a lot more and we're going to be diving into some code today and it's going to be very cool. But I want to ask one more question, Tim, if you have time before you run off.
Sure.
Because you actually hired several people out of
Yes.
architect training. And I want to ask you, how is your experience with that, hiring people from Angular Nation?
Well, I think the results speak for themselves. So, yeah, we've not only hired people through the architect training, we put our own team through architect training, and it's really helped us build a very diverse team with lots of different skill sets. And one of the key things about hiring people from Angular Nation is you have to want to learn to be on Angular Nation. You already have to have the mindset of improvement, and getting people that are already like that makes it so much easier than finding somebody that's just looking for a job and not really also having that desire to keep learning. I think all devs should have that, but I found out that it's not always that way. So
We appreciate you, Tim. Thank you again for stopping by. And we're going to be doing this every month. So hopefully you can pencil us in and join us and start coming back
yeah.
and showing us some cool code because I know you've got some.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right. Can we get some emojis for Tim? Yeah. Thanks, Dylan. Thanks, Tayamba. Okay. Connie, I just want to say again, you guys, I've known Connie for a long time and I've seen her through this entire journey. And I am so incredibly proud of Connie. Connie, thank you so much for bringing us the preview of your brand new talk. You're going to be kind of doing a preview of what's cool in Angular lately. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm ready.
We're ready. Who's ready? I'm ready. Yay.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So let me share my screen. Oh, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh,
it's coming. There it is.
Oh, okay. So loading. Okay, so hi, so welcome to Angular Nation Showcase. My name is Connie. I'm a Angular GDE based in Hong Kong. So I'm going to do the opening keynote tonight. So my agenda is, why does Angular intimidate beginners? New features to improve Angular performance, new logo and documentation, and the awesome communities in Angular. So the learning curve of Angular is not exactly low. Like before, we had, we have ng module that requires people to declare and export components before they can be used in application. And then RxJS required people to understand observable, subject, and subscription, and then to know ng, if, and async pipe in order to resolve observable in the HTML template. And the Angular.io site contains too much information. Tour of Heroes tutorial is there, and API classes are there, and fundamental concept are also on that site. So I think these are some of the reasons that make the framework very intimidating. But fortunately, Angular team has heard our feedback to make the framework easy to build applications. So like some new improvements in Angular that I consider important are standalone components, pipe and directives, signals to signal to observable RxJS interop, the new control flow in 17, and the biggest feature in Angular 17, that is a deferrable view. So standalone component makes ng module optional. That means less boilerplate, and and less code means a smaller main bundle. And a component is a standalone when we put a standalone colon true inside component decorator, and then the standalone components can be imported into other component directly. So in this example, the app component is a standalone component, right? And then it imports two other standalone components, user component and tech stack component. So the page is rendered on the right hand side. So when we look into user component, it imports hello pipe, standalone pipe, and user directive, standalone directive. So the hello pipe format text and the user directive modify the font style of the paragraph elements. Okay, signal. So RxJS is very intimidating to Angular developer of any level because it requires people to learn other things such as observable, subscription, and async pipe. Fortunately, there is Signal in Angular 16 that simplifies reactivity. So what is Signal? So Angular Signal tracks reactivity, draw, and applications. It can store primitive value or complex object. So unlike RxJS that has many operators, the APIs of Signal are very simple. It has three methods: um, set, update, and effect to change the state of the signal. Well, one more question from my Angular developer that has some experience with HTTP request. HTTP request still returns observable. So can we have a signal? Well, the answer is yes, thanks to the effort of our Angular team. So there's a package called RxJS interop that has two functions: to signal and to observable. So to signal convert observable to signal, and to observable does the opposite. So people can make a GET request to receive an observable and pass that observable to signal to get the signal back. So that's the answer to the previous question. So new control flow, also known as syntax. So what if we can make Angular even better with the new control flow in 17? So in Angular 17, it introduced new control flow that is similar to the control flow in Svelte. It can do if, else if, and else. And F4 and empty can iterate an array of items, and switch case and default. So the new control flow is cool because it's more intuitive than structured directives. These constructs mimic JavaScript syntax, so it's like writing JavaScript code in a HTML template. And then the new control flow is built in. Therefore, we don't have to import at if, as else if, and the other constructs in the components. Finally, F4 enforces track by. That can be a performance gain when the list is long. So on the left side is an example of ng if, ng else, and ng template. And I rewrote the example using at if and at else in 17. So the code is like writing JavaScript code inside the div element. So the left-hand side is the left-hand side uses ng4 to iterate an array of products using ng4. I rewrote the same example using F4 and add empty in 17. So this is an example of a switch case. So try to match the name input to one of the cases to display a paragraph element. And the default case is executed when none of the cases matches. So this is the biggest feature in 17. Defer means not now but later. So but how late? So the component is defer until it's triggered. So if the component is big and then you know that that component is not used by everyone, it can be deferred until it is triggered. Then the main bundle can be made even like smaller. At defer is required, but the other three at loading, at placeholder, and at error are optional. So in this example, I defer the large component until the button is clicked to set its load to true. So when large component is not rendered, the placeholder block display a placeholder in its place. So when large component is being loaded, at loading display loading. When error occurs in this defer example, at error display an error message. And finally, the large component is fully loaded and displayed on browser. So performance. Angular 17 is much faster than Angular 16 because at syntax uses a different div algorithm than the structured directives. And I think since 16, Angular uses Vite for dev server and ESBuild for bundling. Therefore, the performance of 17 is faster than like prior versions. So new logo and documentation. The logo is not red. Oh my God. The logo is not red anymore. So it's like saying goodbye to the good old AngularJS day that happened 10 years ago. And the new documentation site is angular.dev. It is in beta status currently, but people can go there to check out the documentation, the references, and use the interactive tutorial to build their first application in the playground. The user interface is really, really nice. So you should go and visit when you have time. Communities. Well, Angular team is very open and transparent. Like all the RCs are in GitHub, and GDE can make feedback to them before the RC are closed. And the team members like always listen to suggestions and answer inquiries and questions. Okay, Angular Nation is really a good place to learn Angular. I mean, this is a place where Bonnie schedule events with Angular team in the best of her abilities, and we can attend the event to ask questions directly to the team members. If you want to be a GDE, you can go ask Bonnie for advice, support, and mentorship when she's not sleeping or busy. once a week, we have an hour to talk about enterprise architecture, and we learn things from each other. Like, to tell you a secret, I forgot Angular route resolver until Dylan and Pavel talk about it uh, 2 weeks ago. So it is good to learn from everyone, like, for 1 hour each week. So 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 these are some of the awesome communities in Angular. So in conclusion, like, there are many reasons to use Angular in 2024. The, like, people are very, like, privileged. Like, 2024 is a much better time to learn Angular than 2014 when Angular 2 or 4 came out. So thank you very much for listening to my opening keynote. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you, Connie. That was awesome.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you.
can I get everybody to come off mute for me and help me thank Connie for that awesome presentation?
Bravo,
Thank you,
Connie.
Connie.
Great job.
Thank you,
Connie,
Connie.
thank you, Connie.
Thank you. Gracias. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Gracias.
Thank you, Connie.
Yeah. 谢谢.
So that was a preview of what's coming up at DevFest in Hong Kong next week. And so that was also a great overview of what we're going to be talking about, because some of the guys are going to be kind of diving more into the things, because Connie's giving us kind of a general overview of all the cool stuff that well, not all the cool stuff, but highlights of some of the cool stuff. And then we've got everybody coming in and kind of deep diving a little bit more into some of the stuff. We've got some cool stack lists coming up. Okay, so we've got Rares is going to go first because he's got a hard stop coming up. He can't stay too long, and he's going to talk about a quick intro to Signal. We've got Pavel and Dylan are going to. Pavel's going to be talking about the dynamic architecture, dynamic forms. It's going to be very cool. Dylan, I don't know what Dylan's got something cool for us. Trust me. Andy is going to be talking about the control flow, and he's got some. I love the stack blitzes that he put together, and if we're lucky, Andy's going to share them with us, so you can see the stack blitzes with the really cool. It's really similar to what Connie was doing, but it's a stack blitz. You can like take it with you and play with it. It's very fun. And then I think Dominic. I really want. Can we just all have some emojis for Dominic, because Dominic is out sick this week. Dominic has been really a beloved part of our group, and he should be here with us today, but he's out sick. And we're really, I just want to give a shout out to Dylan or to Dominic, because I'm really hoping that he'll be here with us next month, because we love Dominic. So everybody say hello to Dominic. And we had Tim, Craig is here. Craig has been in our group, and especially has been in the experts channel for a while. Craig, will you give me a note in the chat and let me know if you want to just say a few words about anything useful that you found in your time here? And if so, I can put you up, and then Danny might pop in. And I think that will be it. And then we will open it up for questions. So yeah. Okay. Rares, is Rares in the house?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Rares, how are you? Happy
Hi,
Friday,
hi,
my friend. I
everyone.
was worried you weren't going to show up. You were a little late, but you're here.
No,
I'm glad
I
you're
was
here.
a couple of minutes late, but I'm here.
That's okay. No worries. How are you? Are you ready? You're going to teach us a little bit about signals?
Yeah, a bit. So I'll start. My name is Radish. I am a developer, architect, and I joined Angular Nation like in the first 2 weeks. I've been following everything in the channels. Haven't been there as much anymore because it's been a crazy life. But I wanted.
You've been with us since the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to kind of share with you, like, my journey through everything. I did the Angular architect course with Bonnie. Ever since then, because I've always had this act for learning more. So ever since then, I've been joining and seeing stuff all over Angular Nation. And one thing that got my attention is, as you've seen, you've probably seen, Connie has been showing us a lot about observables and ArcGIS, and she did this really cool 30-day challenge with RxJS. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out. And when the Angular team introduced the signals library, well, it's been like really magical, because everything happens behind the scenes. You don't know the dependencies, but everything just works out of the box. And it's really kind of, for me, I don't like magic. I like to see what's behind the scenes. That's the interesting part. Even on TV, when I see magic, I try to see what's behind the scenes. So after a lot of digging, this is what I came up with, and this is what I believe it's the most simplest signal implementation, so that we can understand, right? So we basically have this signal. You all know you have this signal function. You pass in an initial variable. This initial variable, you can call it and get the value. So if I go ahead and say log my count, then I will get the 0. So this isn't really like that weird, but the weird part is like you can update the values, which is also not that complicated, and you have an effect somewhere where you're running the value. So you run this function, but as soon as you click on the buttons, you get the notification that it's being clicked, but nothing happens. So what's happening behind the scenes? Because this is just a function that runs once. How does effect know about all the signals? And the initial implementation, like in my head, goes like this. You have the value that you're memoizing. You have the initial value, which goes in first. You have two functions, the get function and the set functions, and you return them. It might be more, in the documentation, it's a lot more complicated, but I wanted to go to the bare minimum. But and you have the effect, which is a function that gets executed. So what's the trick? How do we actually know when the signal has changed? Well, you gotta have some subscribers, some if you haven't seen Ben Lesh has his latest talk on Revo.js on YouTube. She was speaking about patterns of push, pull, push, pull, pull, push. So as we know, an observable is a signal is more of a push the change, notify about the change, but get the value whenever you can. So this is what I got to, the basic implementation. You have the memo value, you have a set of subscriptions. Whenever you're getting value, you're adding a callback. Let's talk about it later. And then whenever you have the effect, you are registering in the active context, that function as an active context. You call it and you clean it up. So as soon as you have changes on the setter, you are triggering the value. So if you see, then you can actually see that the function is being ran. So if you do this with a second count, which is the magic of of the effects, you can kind of go add 1 and you're just running the first effect, the first count. The second count only runs at the beginning. So if I go and uncomment this and put here an H3, then you will see that the value doesn't update because we're not triggering anything for the second count. We're only triggering for the first count. So yeah, that's it. That's my talk.
Yay. Okay, I did tell everyone that we were going to have questions at the end, but I want to pause for a minute to see if anyone has questions for Rares specifically, because Rares is not going to be able to stay too long. That's why we put him up right after Connie. So does anyone have questions about the code that Rares just showed you before we move on to the next speaker? Going once, going twice. All right. Will everybody please come off mute and help me thank Rares? And his Stackblitz is in the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Rares.
Thank you, Rares. This is
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Rares. Okay, we have more. I want to check in with Andy. Andy and Dylan, how are you guys feeling? Does anybody want to volunteer to come up next? Are either one of you guys ready?
Dylan can go next. Yeah, I'm fine.
I know I switched it up, you guys, because we had some people are here, some people are not here. Bye, Rares. Thank you again so much for showing us signals.
Oh, okay. Did you want me to go? I was going to go after Pavel, but did you want me to go now, or?
I think I'm gonna save Pavel for last. Is that okay, Pavel? Can we save you for last?
I'm okay with that.
Oh, Dylan's like, no, wait, I'm not ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get myself ready here.
Dylan and Pavel have a little bit of overlap because Dylan and Pavel have become friends and they're working on kind of the same stuff. So there's a little bit of overlap in what they're talking about because they're like twinsies, you guys. So they've been doing a lot of pair programming and collaborating. So there'll be a little bit of overlap, but I think it'll be fun. And then if it's okay, I'm going to have Andy go up next. And then we had Connie, we had Rares, we had Tim. I don't think Danny's here. And then Craig, if you wanted to share, let me know in the chat. I think Craig is lurking as far as we know. We've been having our preparation meetings early in the morning when Craig was asleep. So we're gonna go Dylan first, then Andy, and then Pavel. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah? All right. Dylan, show us what you got, man.
Okay, sure. So my talk is not going to be so much of a deep dive into technical aspects. Let me know when you can see my screen. But mainly I'm going to be talking about my experience with Angular Nation, a bit about why I joined, how I benefited, and how I think everyone can benefit as well. So basically, a few years ago, I joined Angular Nation after seeing a course that Bonnie had on LinkedIn Learning. And so just a little bit of a background about myself. I joined Angular Nation with the basic knowledge of Angular. So I was working in a company. I wanted to learn more. I'm a full stack developer. I have over 20 years of experience in development. I've worked with, as you know, Microsoft technologies. I've been exposed to Angular a lot. And before that, I've been exposed to like jQuery, JavaScript. Really love JavaScript. But as I started to get into more of the enterprise code, I realized that, I just wasn't learning fast enough. I wasn't where I wanted to be. I wasn't even getting the tasks at work, the Angular tasks that I needed. So I joined Angular Nation because I wanted to accelerate my knowledge. I wanted to take my skills to the next level. But most of all, I wanted support. And I feel that's what I found at Angular Nation. I found support, and that's really been my lifeline all these years in my previous company and in the present company. So just to give a little bit of a background situation at work. So even though I've been working with the application for quite some time, and I've been working with components and services and so forth, something came up at work. It's both a coding issue, and then sometimes, like, how things can go with developers. As you see the cats on the left, you can guess which cat or which mood I was in by looking at the cats. So yeah, I developed the cat stare because like, there was some code and it was done. And then I guess I had to solve the issue. And I hadn't really worked with routing that much. And so I felt flustered, a little bit panicked at the beginning of the week. So went onto the support channel and there was Pavel, Bonnie, Dominic, and Tim. And so what happened? We all got on. I did a screen share. I showed them the scenario that I was facing. And with the help of these experts, quickly, I got to understand the concepts. Started to see how I could arrange routes and get a better understanding. The routing was a little bit more complicated that I had to tackle. But with their help, I was able to get that done. So what was the result? Well, the result was that, a little bit happier at work, a lot happier, actually. I shouldn't say just a little, a lot happier. And able to resolve the situation and actually be able to have the code in working order. So I'm just going to, there's my thing. I'm just going to end this slide for a second. And I'm going to share a little bit of the scenario. Once again, this is not a deep dive. This is just showing like the before and after. So what happened is that the scenario was with the code was that when you went to a route, the user would actually see like a blank screen. So what was happening? Sometimes the actual data in the form wouldn't appear. There'd be weird errors. So, once again, I got on a session with Pavel. And so what Pavel brought out was that it's not a matter of like whether the data is there or not. He was helping me to appreciate that it's when the data is there. So, as typically is done, if I can demonstrate here in like the form, in the actual form, the code was arranged in such a way that, yeah, we think we can get the data, but it just wasn't appearing. So I'll show you the after result. So what happened is that Pavel introduced me to resolvers. So with the resolvers now, what happened is that the resolvers make sure you have your data, and once you have your data, then you show what you want to show, your component. And on top of that, because of that, I'm able to listen to the various events that happen with the resolver, and listening to the events, well, I can show a spinner in case there's a delay from the back end. Because actually what happened is one of the developers, after introducing resolver, they said that the resolver introduced a bug because they thought the resolver was a bottleneck in case there was slow response from the back end. But it really wasn't the case. It's just that, we could listen to these different events here. So what happens is that when you subscribe to the events of the router, you can listen to different router events. These are just a few. So navigation and resolve. You can also listen to when like the user cancels or there's some sort of an error and many other things. So anyway, to make a long story short, what happened is that because of the support at Angular Nation, I was able to feel a lot more confident. So I went from being like the cat here and giving the cat stare to being the cool cat and feeling a lot more confident about the code. So really, my experience is that, joining Angular Nation every week and associating with experts has really helped me. And I've taken away some very important points. Bonnie has encouraged me to ask questions of GDEs, ask questions of different developers, and ask questions of my peers. Don't be afraid to speak up. And also, Bonnie said, don't just tell them, show them. So that's something important as well, because I was getting frustrated trying to explain what I was knowledge I had, but I just couldn't really convey it. So show them. And then, of course, with Angular Nation, there's always homework, right? So currently I'm working on getting to understand dynamic forms and creating something practical with that. So hopefully I'll be able to show that in the future. So that's it for my presentation. Any questions for me?
I'm so proud of you. Okay, can I get everybody to come off mute? Help me thank Dylan.
That's pretty cool. Well done, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan.
Dylan,
Thank you, Dylan.
that
Thanks.
stack blitz was very cool. Would you mind dropping the stack blitz in the chat? Even if you could do, like, I think you did a before and after stack blitz with the routes. And I think that would be really helpful for people if you could drop that in the chat. We'll have all the stack blitzes collected in the chat, you guys.
Yeah, it needs a little bit of cleanup, but yeah, I'll drop both stack blitzes so that persons can explore the different options.
Yeah, and I want you guys to keep in mind that I put this event on the calendar and didn't really ask them when they were. I was just like, here, we're gonna do it. So we're gonna be back next month. If you guys like this event, then we'll start doing this every month, and the guys will come and show like what they're working on, what kind of cool stuff they're learning, and answer questions. So this is just gonna be the beginning, because Dylan's still got more to come. So next month we'll check in with Dylan and see how things are going. But in the meantime, this is a very cool place to start. So thank you again, Dylan. That was very cool. I'm so proud of how far you come, and I love to see all the confidence that you're gaining at work. So very cool. Okay, Andy, how are you feeling, Andy? Andy's got control flow. Who wants to see control flow, you guys? It's very cool. I really like the way he put it together so that it's like super easy to see. Andy?
Yes. Oh, yes. That's a cue. Sorry. I hope you see my screen.
We do.
Nice. As you already have seen in the keynote of Connie, so I already explained control flow, and I sprinkled it with some Dutch flavor on top of it, because I'm from the Netherlands, and I want to talk first about the if-else, then I will talk more about the for, and then at the end I will talk about the switch case. If-else, this is the old way with the star ng if, and then a boolean, and couple of weeks ago, I learned that else also exists. Else works with a template, with the ng template here. So if the is Friday is false, then the template is shown. Before, I always used ng if, not is Friday, to display this part. But now, with the control flow, we use an add, and it's, as Connie said earlier, it's more like JavaScript. You have an if and an else, and I just added an else if, what earlier was not possible, to show the same thing. And yeah, so at the right side, you see it still works the same way. And yeah, now we can go to the for loop from line 19. The for loop, the old way, is actually in this unordered list with items of Dutch food, and we loop through it, and then we display it. And if there are no Dutch foods, we show no Dutch foods to show. And if I press on this link, then the Dutch foods list is filled, and then the foods are shown. We have 3 types of delicious Dutch food now. That I shouldn't do that. Stroopwafels, bitterballen, and stamppot. In the new way, we use an add before the for, and I should scroll up a bit. Then you see the difference better. It's more neat. And the Angular team also forced us to use the track to detect changes. Track will improve the performance when you have a lot of items in the list. So you also see the use of at empty when the list is empty. And yeah, when it's filled, it will show the Dutch foods here. And that's so you see the old and the new way works the same. And Yeah, I can go now to the switch example. The old way is looks very cumbersome with the NG switch with square brackets with a selected food, and then with a star NG switch case, strobe waffles, bitterballen, stamppot. I get these child components, and then we have a very long NG switch default to say no food is selected. Is selected. Uh, mhm. And the new way looks much more cleaner at switch. Which food is selected, and if that's strobe waffles is the case, show the strobe waffle component, etc. And then default, instead of the NG switch default, we have this default no food is selected. And then, yeah, the right side I will show how it works. So I have added a click event on this. So if I press strobe waffles, then you see the old and the new switch ray works, and strobe waffles is I think quite famous also abroad. And if I press stamppot, then the old and the new way of the switch case still works. And now, yeah, more. A little disclaimer, this code is not production ready, and for more info, you can visit Angular Dev. Um, and this is the page where they talk more about the control flow, of the if, for, and the track, what I mentioned before. And this cool stuff you can also add to the for declaration. And yeah, the empty block I've talked about, and the switch case, and yeah, um, that's it. And yeah, for people who are not watching the architecture showcase, yeah, if you love Angular, you can sit with us at Angular Nation, and this is created by me, Andy Man. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Andy. That was very cool. I loved how you just showed like the before and after, like right next to each other. And I think I'm not the only one who says, please put that in the chat. Can you guys come off mute and let Andy know if you want that stack blitz? How cool was that code? That's brand new, y'all.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. That was great.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
That's awesome. Okay, we have Pavel coming up in a minute, but I want to squeeze in Craig. I was bugging Craig. I'm like, Craig, do you want to say something? Because Craig's been with us for a while in the architects or in the experts channel. He's just switched over recently to the other channels, but he's been with us in the experts channel for a while, and he's also doing some pretty cool enterprise stuff. Craig, do you want to just like what do you have to share that's like, you know, advice? What kind of advice would you have for them?
Hi guys, thank you for squeezing me in. I'm just going to share what I'm working on currently. I literally started on this project on Tuesday, but hopefully there's something that you guys can glean from it that might spark something in your brain. So let me figure out how to share the proper screen. I think that one will do. Okay, so just to set the stage for this little project I'm working on. This is, everybody see everything? Okay, so there's nothing to see right now, but let me just pull up a script for you to absorb. Here's a problem that we're, oh gosh, I have to share my whole screen, otherwise you won't see it, right?
We see Angular Nation.
Yeah, let me share everything. Hang on. Share window. Let's share this window. Okay, so the issue that we have at my company is we want everybody to have a kind of a standard looking set of screens. We don't want people kind of diverging off and doing their own thing. Can you see okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so the way we build the applications is the product manager will go to the designers. The designers they already know what patterns they've used before, and they'll create a design, usually in Figma. where they try to use our common components that we built in our libraries, use the standard set of palettes, font sizes, and they'll produce the design that way. And then the developers, because it's Angular, they have the freedom to go off and build that any way they want to. They can use our components in the framework, or they can go just start from scratch, literally like rebuilding our framework. And we, well, on the architecture side, we want to control that somehow, because at the end of the day, they're just building technical debt, which is going to come back and haunt somebody. It could be them or it could be us. So the ways that we're trying to control that at the company is the designers will go back and see the finished product, and they'll do what they call a design review, where they'll check, did they use the right number of pixels here? Did they have the right padding, and et cetera? And they'll just put little comments in a screenshot and send it back and say, no, you got to fix this. But at the code level, they have no real insight how the teams have gone and actually implemented these designs in the code. So what I'm trying to do with scripts like this is I just get their project, clone it, run this set of scripts, and it's going to report back to me how compliant these guys really are. I'm not spying on them. I just want to be able to help them not get themselves into a big hole. So, sorry, I mean, to look at these scripts is probably not very fun and useful, but I mean, I just started working on this Tuesday, so I might try to make them nicer. But in summary, what they do, this would be one of the scripts that's embedded in there and what it does. So I run this on a particular project, and it tells me, oh, there's 101 uses of hash codes. This is like hard coding of colors in the SCSS files of this project. I'll just take out the word count here so you can see what it's actually showing me. It's saying they've put colors in there like this. So these kind of things, you don't want developers putting hard-coded colors in there, because what if we change our theme? All of a sudden our company gets absorbed by another company and they have their own color scheme. I can't just go and change that in one place and have it flow through all of the applications, because these guys overrode me. So when I run the whole script, I get sort of a report. I could probably zoom in on this better, but what it's telling me is your HTML uses Angular Flex layout, which is deprecated in 52 places. Please remove it. You are directly using Angular material rather than the framework wrapper component in 76 places, et cetera, et cetera. You're still using AM charts 3. So this project, I gave it a score. Perfect score is 0.
We're still looking at your script. Are you sharing the right screen? Colin wants to know.
I thought I shared the right window.
We're looking at the bin bash.
Yep. Sorry. I will share the new screen.
Thank you, Colin.
Yeah. VS Code. I think I just do entire screen and that should do it. Yeah. Okay. How is this? Okay. So clear. Can you see the screen now? It's like
yes, that's better. Thank you.
All right, sorry. Let's run the script again and show you what it does. Actually, so this would be one of the grep commands that's embedded in that script, and it shows the colors. This is what I was talking about, but you couldn't see. So this is all bad. We don't want to have engineers putting themable things in here, and obviously important is a red flag. So when I run the script when I run the script on the whole project, it gives me these sentences here. Your HTML uses Angular Flex layout deprecated in 52 places. Please remove. We've got the hard-coded theme stuff that we need to get out of there, 101, 13. And what teams should be trying to do is drive these numbers down to 0, because these are non-conformities, you could say. And I've given them a score. I put weights on each of these because some of them are critical and some of them are maybe not so important. So I tried to be clever and create a score. So this is not the number of nonconformities. This is how bad they are so they can compare to other projects. And then the idea is just to go to management meetings and bring up the same results. And it should be fair. It should be consistent. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying, look, this team maybe needs a little bit of support to get them on track so they don't fall behind. That's the that's the current plan. Start moving the ball forward. That's what I'm working on currently. Thank you for your attention. Any questions?
I think that's very cool. That's such a good example of the kind of things that that you deal with at the enterprise level. And like Tim was talking about, he's got like hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and you have kind of different problems to solve when you get these big, huge applications. But that's really where Angular shines. So it becomes kind of an issue. So that's why Craig is what do you call it? Kicking off our enterprise space. You and Mikkel and Rares and Tim, I think we'll have a lot to talk about in there.
I just want to say I love this idea so much because
Right?
I have faced all of these issues that you're talking about. I mean, specifically like the thing with the colors and using components, or I guess not using components that when people should. And my thoughts are maybe these could be implemented as ESLint rules, or this script could be run through like a Bitbucket pipeline or GitHub action on a PR. So
that's very good.
I think
point.
this is fantastic.
Andy had a good question. Can you share the script?
Oh gosh, yeah, I can send you guys the script. This is first cut. I'll paste it in the window.
Okay, that sounds
Let's
good.
see if
So grab it out of the chat if you want it.
It crashes Angular Nation if I put it in here.
You could, you know what would be even better, Craig? If you could post it in the home channel. Just make a post and say this was the you know.
Post in the home channel. Sure.
Yeah, and Andy wants instructions as well for like, it doesn't have to be right now, but if you can just put a post in the home channel and do a little very brief explanation of what you just said, and we'll also we're recording this, so then they will keep it after this is over. If that's okay, because everybody wants a copy of it now. You did this to yourself, Craig.
Oh gosh. All right, sure.
You don't have to like polish it or anything. It's just really cool. And I think because I really like the fact that it's something that you can automate, and the things that you've pointed out are things that like everybody cares about this stuff, and the things that you're and also it's just a really I really like what you said about not calling anyone out personally. You know, it's very objective, and you're not picking on anybody, but it's just, I love it. So yeah, if you could post this, if you wouldn't mind, everybody would appreciate that. Can we come off mute and give Craig a little thanks for this very cool, and also he had no prep time at all for that, y'all. So that was pretty cool.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Craig.
All right. You're welcome.
Very cool, Craig. Okay. Last but not least, y'all, I want to introduce you to Pavel. Some of you already know Pavel. I know Dylan has really made friends with Pavel, and Dominic also has been. I have really. We love Pavel. He was, I think, maybe one of the first ones to join the new architect space when we opened it, and he's just always there, and he's amazing, and he's super, super nice and supportive of everybody. And also, one of the things I like about Pavel is I've been teaching him some stuff about the code, and he just takes it and runs with it. And so he's like going and like teaching this to people back at his job and helping out everybody. And he's just, yeah, well, let's not get mushy, but I want to introduce everybody to Pavel because he's really amazing. We love Pavel, and he's going to show us. What are you showing us, Pavel? The dynamic forms.
Yeah, I will be showing the dynamic forms with the topic in my online experience about how Angular Nation changed my life for few things, you know.
Aww.
But let's not go ahead for that. So I've prepared a presentation for you guys. Let me get, yep, right there. Oh my. Here, you should be seeing the screen right now. Yep.
We see it.
Cool. Yeah. So I want to thank you guys for letting me be there and showing you the stuff what I have get from you, and also what I've been learning by Bonnie and so much all the experts right here, which are right now there. And well, we can go. So let's talk about me. I think I don't need to share details like what my name is and how old I am and so much. So we can skip that part and just make it we don't care about that. And let's focus on the most priority things like who is mentoring me, like the Bonnie. So we should shout out to Bonnie for being a good mentor to me. Yeah. And also shout out to Dylan and a lot of folks which are hanging on the spaces and giving me the encouragement to helping them and showing the code for them and so on. So I really like you guys there. Yeah. Well, anyway, you can see also my shorts because I has been hanging out on the Angular Nation for long. So I have the short when I was helping Dylan with the avatar on the right side. And my stack, what really like, is like going for the Angular, Nest, and Native Script. These three are my kind of favorite because with them I can be the god. I can say that. I can go with the full stack army and being the one man army, So I'm glad that these technologies are there and I can use them for free. So okay, well, we will move on with the next slide. And this slide is how Angular Nation is changing my job. This part is pretty tough because before I met Bonnie, I can say that I had a lot of struggles in my job. And I can say that there is not only me, but there is a lot of people like hanging out and having problems in the job. So in my experience, I went from the deepest low level when I was stressed out and getting so mushy, and so we can relate to this slide when we are just tired and being so exhausted from the work and also being so emotional, because if you are tired and exhausted and you have a lot of going on you, then you won't really be a sweetheart, so you will just tell the people like, don't talk to me, I don't really want to talk. Because so this is what I've been expecting in my work. And there was also thinking about where is the problem, like what is the problem that nobody is hearing me what I'm trying to tell them, or why are they frustrated from the work what I have been giving to them, and so on. So these are the topics what can everyone relate having in the job when your project manager is asking you like, hey Pavel, how much does this take you, and why are you taking too long to make this task completed, because you already told me that it will be done by yesterday. I was like, and so on. These kind of things can happen for every one of us, and also it will makes the workspace more problematic for us because we don't know what we are doing wrong there, and we think that I'm not the problem here, obviously. So it must be the manager there. Yeah. Well, anyway, this is going to the soft skill. What is trying to Bonnie show us that there is not only the code problem, but also there is the soft skill problems, which are like the team building, influencing, communication, and these are things which is not really normal for the programmer to have. If you are talking to your project manager, what you want to tell him is like, I just done this and leave me alone. I don't want to talk anymore about that stuff, So these things like empathy also, because we have to know when we can talk about some things and when we have to listen to this project manager, what is he trying to tell us. So being the Angular architect doesn't mean to have being the architect there was not only about Oh, there is. Okay, I have the problems in my computer, but doesn't matter. So being the architect, it's not only about the code, but it's also about having the code, soft skills and being more open about the things and learn these things, have to approach these problems. And this is the part when the Angular Nation comes with the solution for us, the dev guys, and that's the Angular Nation spaces there, because we have brand five spaces there, which we can use and try to learn in these 5 areas for us to be more badasses and being good at the work, like for example a support space, because a lot of guys doesn't have a confidence in themselves, so they need some support and they need to know that it's not their problem, but they need to also know how can they solve these problems without being so emotional and being okay with their work, because there is no solution trying to tell your boss, I'm gonna leave there because you are mean to me. That's no solution for you guys. The solution is going with the communication and trying to get into work and make sure that your workspace is the best for you, and you don't have to change the jobs, but also you can raise your company with your productivity and also make a huge adjustments for them. So I can say that having these spaces is really crucial for us, and making sure that I want to show you these things, like that, make sure that you are gonna to join these spaces too, and being there with us, because like we are doing this talk, we are doing this every day, so you are happy to sit with us and just talk the things through. So anyway, this was the one important chapter of this presentation, and we can move on to the code. So what I have for you is a kind example for Angular forms, because we have the lot of things. We have the lot of things about the forms, and in one time I was talking with Bonnie about the forms. So I was thinking about how I can change the forms, and I was looking for the things to make the codes better in the forms. So this is basically the forms what we have been doing all the time, going with the form group declaration, making sure that every type of property is there, and also making the HTML for that. And for me, I was asking Bonnie, or it was not asking the Bonnie, it was saying to her, hey, I found this brand new library there. This is the cool one, and I think this is going to be a great one. And she was like, stop right there. You don't want to do this, you want to be picky about what you are doing there. So she showed me that there is a way which is called the dynamic forms for us. And what we are basically doing there is using the JSON, which is the declaration of our forms, which we are not going to repeat ourselves again and again. And we are just going with the JSON there, put it like in the constant here, and make the HTML work for us. We are not supposed to be working for HTML, but it should be working for us. Yes. So so anyway, thank you for your time. Let's make sure that you are going to subscribe for a YouTube channel, and also thanks our sponsor. And thank you for your time again.
Thank you, Pavel. Okay, everybody please come off mute. Help me thank Pavel.
Thank you, Pavel.
Thanks, Pavel.
That's it.
Thanks, Pavel.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
Excellent, Pavel. Thank you.
Pavel has also, so that dynamic forms repo that I did, I wrote that for my students. Well, actually, I wrote that for clients when I was consulting, and then I've used that for teaching for years, but I hadn't updated it in a while, and Pavel has updated it to do, so that now it's now standalone, and he's going to be updating it. Maybe we'll come back to that next month to do strictly type forms. So he's actually bringing that old repo that I made up to the latest version.
Oh, shoot.
So,
yeah, I have that part also. I have prepared the demo.
You want to show that to us real quick?
Yeah, I can. There is right.
Would you guys like to see this, the standalone part?
Yeah. So we have two applications there. The one is without the dynamic forms, and one is with the dynamic forms. So we can also look into the code. So if we are, not this one, yeah. So basically what we have there, we have the two applications, demo without and with. So we can look if we want to go with the example of without the dynamic forms. So the code will be looking like that. So like I said, there is a code right there, which is the typed in, but this example was created by Bonnie. So this one is when you have to put every line of property there and making sure that your code has intact with the HTML. So like this one. So you have always repeating yourself. And we have this one example, brand new, cool one, where we just go with the definition of the JSON right here. We will declare this JSON into this constant here with the property of the class. And we are just using the one component which will do the whole part of the job for us. And we can also see the magic behind that. So we can go with the dynamic form wrapper, which has the dynamic field. And this field has the options of the components which will be drawn by the JSON which we have selected. So if we want to go with the checkbox, then we will have the checkbox. If we want to have date picker, of course, we have the date picker here. We can also go with single radio, select dropdown, and so on. Also, we can customize it and make it the list on its own. So we don't have nothing to worry about, and we can just go with this code. And not only that, Bonnie also made sure that if we want to have the children inside of the component, we can have it too, right there. So that's all. I think
Remember we started out with Tim talking about how he has way less code than he used to, but all the same features? That's how.
Well, that's all for me. I don't have nothing.
Thank you, Pavel.
Yeah.
And thank you for updating that repo. It's very cool, and I'm excited to see what you do with the strictly typed forms.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. Okay, I want to mention also a lot of these guys. I know Connie's a GDE, so she's got some experience. But a lot of these guys, this is the first time that they've actually been presenting in front of everybody. So I just really want to say again how proud I am of all of them, because it's not that easy to get up in front of everybody and share what you're working on. But I think it's great to see, and I love it. So can we come off mute and just have one more round of thanks for all of our speakers?
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, everyone.
Bravo.
Okay, and now we're open for questions. If you have any questions for any of the speakers, raise your hands. Colin.
Yeah, now I have a couple of questions. So we can maybe move on to other people between whatever, but I think it was Dylan who spoke a little bit about route resolvers. And I've never actually used route resolvers in an application. The approach that I have generally taken is to, ng on a niche. When the page initializes, then you grab the data. And while that data is being grabbed, we show a loading skeleton. So a skeleton of what the page will look like. And my question about route resolvers, I think in the code, Dylan, that you showed, there was some logic in the main.ts file. And so I'm wondering, with route resolvers, can we get that component or page specific changes? Like, because the example you showed was with the loading spinner. So does it have to be like globally every route resolver uses the same loading spinner, or can we still get those page specific loading skeletons with route resolvers?
Yeah, I believe that you can bring it down to the component level. I have seen examples and kind of work with examples where I guess, I guess in this case, I'm using a service that's available in root, but I guess if you have like a localized component and you wanted to have the spinner work with that instance of a service, like a non-singleton service, I believe you can put the spinner logic for the component. I've done both. Yeah, it does work both ways. And the thing about it is that, yeah, I guess it helps, if you put everything in the on init, it really is so coupled to like that component, and it's all, subject to a lot of problems or issues. And you probably experienced it where you have to write a whole bunch of code in case sometimes it doesn't appear or it appears at the wrong time and so forth.
Also, Colin, actually, I'm gonna ask Dylan to explain this. Dylan, we see a lot of people fetching their data in the ng on init. What is the difference between putting it in ng on init and putting it in the resolver? Can you explain that to us?
Well, the main thing is that you will fetch your data before you start the whole constructing and building up your component and having it appear. And in some instances, I guess, depending on how your routes are set up and the router links, that could be very crucial because I guess in some cases, like, you might have, what happens is they put it in the init. In some instances, they'll have the component try to appear and there'll be just this blank screen, nothing's happening, a bad user experience. Whereas now, like, you can control in the with a resolver, and then listen to the resolver event, subscribe to that, and then control what you display. You can show a spinner, and it's all responding to the events. So once the data is all there, it's completed, then we're gonna stop the spinner and show the actual component. That's the main benefit. Yeah.
The beautiful thing is, because if you put it in the resolver, Angular is actually going to fetch that data way sooner in the whole life cycle. And so when you're not even asking it to go get the data until the ng on init, then you're gonna have that whole round trip. But if you get it in the resolver, by the time it starts rendering the component, the data might already be there. You might not even need the spinner anymore, Colin. Okay. Because this is really one of the things with putting them, having it set up the way, and this is why, like, Dylan's moving it around, and it's not really that big of a difference other than like getting it working right. But then what you see is an actual performance. Dylan, were you able to notice a performance benefit, or was it like?
Yes, I guess you could say there was a performance benefit. Actually, also something else. Being able to be granular with the events and how they're happening, we got to see where there was actually a bottleneck in the delay. So in our code, there's a little bit more of a complex route, and we're creating a form that's going to be doing some edits. We saw actually where the spinner is actually happening, where it's appearing, without any. There's no intervention, and there's a spinner happening. So we have to look at our code once again. Yeah. And
you should come and show it to us, Colin, because if you've got a spinner in Angular, I'm going to be going, what's going on? Because Angular is wicked fast. So if it's architected properly, and if it's all, if you do it right, you should never need a spinner, because it's going to load so fast that you'll never see the spinner. And I actually did have clients that had spinners, and then I came along and was like, we don't need the spinner. No, we worked really hard on that. We don't need it. We don't need any of that kind of ghost loading animation, anything like that, because it's going to load so fast. If it's architected properly, it should load very fast. And this is one of the little tricks, is moving it from the ng on init into the resolver, because you're going to have some fetch data function, right? And it's still going to be the same function. You're still going to have your same services. You're just calling them in a different place, and you're calling it way up ahead, farther, earlier in the process, so that by the time it starts rendering your component, it's good to go.
Yeah, and one of our lead developers, he was so impressed with that solution, because we had not used that at all in our application. He said, "No, this opens up doors. We can do a lot more things now if we use a resolver approach." So I was very happy about that.
Such a good example. We're really happy for you, Dylan. So now they're starting to look to Dylan and be like, what else can Dylan do? That was pretty cool code. Dylan, what else you got? So yeah, that's just one example of the things that Dylan's been working on. Dylan's been doing all kinds of cool stuff. But yeah, those resolvers. And this is the thing, and this is, like I said at the very beginning, right? Why I left consulting, because there are so many teams out there writing Angular that don't have anybody to say, hold on, wait, don't do that. There's an easier way, because what ends up happening is like what Tim found when he first was, doing well, that wasn't Tim's code. That was the code that he inherited, but it's like hundreds of thousands of lines of code. And really what Pavel was showing with the dynamic form, where you've got all this hard-coded stuff that's not dry, that's what a lot of teams are doing. And so when we start to move stuff around and we learn how to like that's what Pavel's doing, and also Dylan is doing the same thing with the dynamic code. That's what Tim is using at his company too. Is when you learn how to make it dynamic, you actually can. We talk about pulling components out of thin air like magic, right? And when you learn how to do that, you're really not going to need all that code. And so you really start writing less code in it, and then it becomes super fast.
Yeah, we also shout out to Tim for making a huge progress with the dynamic forms, because I would say he's the father of that, which is showing up the code and what he can do with the whole JSON parts. That's amazing.
Yeah, Tim is
Glad it
pretty
helped
cool.
out.
And also, I will say he hired several of the architects that I trained, and they really love working for Tim. So that's a big shout out to Tim, that he really treats his people very well, and he's amazing. Let's not get mushy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Colin, that was an amazing question. Anybody else have questions for the team? John.
I guess mine, not really a question, but more a comment. So not taking anything from the great technical knowledge everyone shared with us, but I loved how everyone spoke about also the soft skills and understanding the learning curve for new people coming into Angular, how difficult or how potentially scary it looks, but also the soft skills and understanding that if you're dealing with someone, you deal with them on this level, but as someone gets deeper into the framework, there's a lot of awesome, cool stuff in there. So yeah, well
Absolutely.
done, everyone. It was awesome.
We really come across so much of and this is the thing, especially when you get into larger teams, part of the big benefit of Angular is that it's strongly opinionated, which means we really need to get everyone on the team to be consistent with the naming conventions and the way they're organizing things. But so much I see guys that really know Angular, that are really good with Angular, but they're really not that assertive or bossy. They don't want to go around telling everyone else what to do. And so everyone just kind of does what they want, and then you end up with this big, huge mess. And so there's a finesse to getting everyone to do what you want, but not being this, Dylan is the nicest guy, and Pavel, they're such nice guys. And it's hard to talk over people in meetings, but then they're learning how to show them this really cool code. And then all of a sudden they're not talking over it. Everybody's looking at them going, show us more. So it's really how to help people without arguing with people, because that was something that took me a long time to figure out, you guys. But I really, that was something that I had a lot of experience with in the enterprise, just getting people to listen to my recommendations. And that's something that we're really working with them, is listen, okay, I'm just going to tell you what I told them, right? Because we're dropping little pro tips here. So many times people are arguing, and you're really trying to show them something. And the most frustrating thing for me was when I know I'm right, I have a good solution, but they don't want to learn that. We haven't had a chance to learn GraphQL or Nest, or we're just going to leave it the way it is because we don't want to do something new, right? That's so frustrating because the new way is better. And they just don't listen. And so I got frustrated with that a lot. And then I started finding it much easier when I figured out, and I learned from my friend Justin. He said, you're not teaching them right. If they won't listen to you, if they won't listen to the technical recommendations that you're making, you need to explain it better. Explain to them how this is going to help them. And so we talk through a lot of that kind of stuff where these people won't listen, but how to not how to make them listen, but how to make them want to listen. And then we also kind of work on just career stuff, confidence, becoming a GDE, and coming in here and actually teaching, because what's the best way to learn? Teach. So to come and teach you guys what they've been learning is also really good practice. So it's all related. And it is really important, because so many, I've met a lot of developers who are very, very good with code, but not necessarily that comfortable with people. And it does make a difference. So if you're good with code, you have so much to offer, then sometimes you need to have a little support to speak up. And having the small groups is a place, a small place to practice these things, and then ask everybody hey, what'd you get for number 7? And then you have a lot more confidence to go, okay, this is the way that the Angular team recommends handling this. You can go into the team and give these recommendations with much more confidence. That's what we're working on. Love it. Okay, John, it's so good to see you again, and that was a great question, or great comment. Eileen?
Hello. Okay. My question is for Timothy. So, you refactored your company's code with monorepo as well as adding libraries. So, I wanted to ask, what was your process of getting buy-in for all these new ideas?
Very good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. So I was in a unique opportunity to be able to kind of control the direction of that. So I was able to make the recommendations and tell the business that it will cost us more upfront to do this effort, but we have a roadmap of so many additional new products we want to build. I think at the time we had 4 or 5 products. We're now up to 13. So I was basically saying, if we want to continue developing and not triple or quadruple the team size, we need to have a more efficient way to do it. And so that's why I was really pushing for the monorepo and the Angular training. And that was the other thing too, is the architect training was a big key. Selling that, just basically saying that it will be expensive at first, but it will pay itself off in the long run. And we've been able to show the results as well. So just being able to reduce our code base, have new developers come in and be able to, well, we released 4 apps in 1 year. And it used to be maybe 1 a year. And we did this while still maintaining 9 other apps. So, and adding key features to those as well. So I think it was laying out what the roadmap would be and the potential benefit to get them to accept the risk of spending the time and the money to make those type of changes. Does that help?
Yep, that was great. Thank you.
There was the big feedback that I got at the end of every round of architect training, because the thing with architect training was like, some of it was like, I'm teaching them code and I'm teaching them like the most common mistakes that I see people making, which a lot of it is just writing so much extra code and having all this tech debt and not being able to pivot because, you know, there's just too much, and not being able to convince people. So we talk about how to convince people, how to do a proof of concept, how to, you know, make these recommendations, and how to jump from developer to architect, because so many people kind of stay at developer, and how do you go from developer to architect? So we talk about a lot of that. What was I saying about Tim? There was a point to that. I lost my train of thought. I don't remember. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was like, what was I just about to say? So part of architect training was my recommendations for like, because I have so much experience with Angular and especially Angular in enterprise. But the other half of architect training was office hours, where we have an hour every week where literally I'm just sitting there and saying, ask me questions. Let's talk about what you're working on. And everyone said that was so, like, they love that, because you can't get that on like so much other training. There wasn't that office hours. And so everyone loved office hours, but part of it was because we spent like 4 to 6 weeks together in our group, that everyone kind of got attached to each other and they made friends within the group. And everyone was saying at the end, when it's over, we don't want office hours to end. And so this is where we kind of rolled it into what we're doing now, is we just have these groups and we have different topics on different days. So if you want to talk about, you know, career and being a GDE or something like that, or if you actually want to code out and like nerd out and talk about architecture, then we've got the enterprise space, because like the bigger projects, like what Craig's working on, what Tim's working on, they have their own issues. So it's basically like architect training that stays, and you can jump in and share and learn, and really everybody started making friends, and it's kind of fun. And then everybody who's in the group like has more confidence when they go back, they get more street cred, you know, when they go back to work. So that's been a lot of fun. So everybody's invited. You can sit with us if you want to join us. Otherwise we'll keep doing these showcases and kind of keep, you know, coming out and showing you guys what kind of cool stuff we're working on. Does anybody else have questions for the team, for the architects? I'm gonna turn off the recording, and then you guys are welcome to stay. We can roll over into the Friday social and just hang out and have a little more discussion. Go ahead, Andy. Did you want to add something?
Sorry, I was muted. I have one little question for Connie. And at one of her slides, you talk about the RFCs, that the Angular team is open to listen to GDEs, but the Angular team also listen to us mere mortals also, right? Yeah. So not only the GDEs. Yeah.
Connie's still in the call. Oh, I was going to say I thought Connie was asleep, but Connie's answering. She's awake.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Connie.
Well, I mean the RFCs on the on GitHub, and I recognize the prominent names, and most of them are like GTs. Maybe some people are not, and I didn't realize. But I see most of the like the outspoken one, like Nia, Yunus, those Dutch, French, Germans name like Metal, like they
No
they are
worries.
GDEs. Yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely don't have to be a GDE in order to, because they really want feedback from everybody. The GDEs have monthly meetings with the Angular team, and we have an Angular Slack channel. So we have kind of more access, more like behind the scenes access to the Angular team. But also the Angular team has been joining us in the experts channel on Fridays, like kind of a lot lately. So that's been a lot of fun. So we've actually been able to like talk to them directly and talk about, you know, what we were talking to Jessica about SSR, and talking to Minko about module federation or Webpack, or like the future of how that's going to handle. And Alex Rickabaugh always is a joy. He comes by and talks to us a lot about Storybook, or we talked about Storybook, we were talking about standalone, so many things. So it's really nice to have the Angular team stop by, and we can also talk to them directly, because there's the RFC, but then also we actually get to talk to them. I think Andy, you've been traveling a lot, Andy. You were like in Egypt, and you came back, and then you left again. So I don't think you've seen too much with the Angular team, but that's another really good place to give feedback. But yeah, you don't have to be a GDE to do.
Okay.
You can talk to them on GitHub, or you can talk to them in the experts channel, and you just have kind of extra access to them if you're a GDE. But definitely, they take feedback from everybody on GitHub. They love feedback.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there are no more questions, I'm going to close off the recording. And like I said, everybody's welcome to stay and hang out with us for a bit. I want to thank AG Grid one more time for sponsoring Angular Nation and just giving us a place where we can have free events like this. How cool is this? And I hope this was helpful for everybody. I hope that everyone, maybe some of you learned some cool new things. And thank you again to all of our great speakers for preparing all of this. It was awesome. And once again, can I just say, I am so proud of all of you. All right, see you soon.